Hi, Matt here from Rocket Expansion. So one of our clients just got featured on a live TV interview on BBC Africa, and she got that interview as a direct result of us working with her on her content marketing. So I would like for you to have some similar results of your own and get some big exposure. So today I'm going to share with you exactly how to get featured on a major news channel using content marketing. So the first thing you need to do is find a content gap. What does that mean? It's a lot easier to write an article or a piece of content or create a video where there isn't a whole lot of competition for that particular subject. So the first thing you should do, you should go to your friend Google and you should type in a few things related to your niche and try to find something that's a great overall topic that nobody's really tackled, or that there's very, very thin content about that you can just blow out of the water. So with this particular client, she's a health coach, and we did a bit of searching around Google and we found this beautiful opportunity. She's a health coach in South Africa, and it turns out no actual health coach has actually written a great comprehensive article about health coaching in South Africa. So that was our content gap. We went, great, nobody's really answered this great keyword, which is health coaching South Africa, health coaching Africa, health coach Africa, health coach South Africa, South Africa health coach, all these kind of keywords. Nobody's really written anything like that. So we were going to tackle this keyword and write some great content to fill that gap. So a few things on this. You should pick a fight you can win. I wouldn't, if you're a small business or consulting agency or anything like that, and there are massive content platforms from well-known websites that are writing crazy, detailed, ultimate guides to something, you're not likely to be able to get any exposure on Google against these giants, unless they've written terrible articles and you can just do one much better. So I would start by picking a fight you can win. Find a content gap like we did. I'll give you another example of this. One of our articles, which is fantasy author websites. We went online, we help authors create websites. So we went online and we found this content gap. People were writing about author websites, but nobody had ever published an article specifically on fantasy author websites. So we've created quite a few awesome fantasy author websites. So we went ahead and we created the 10 best fantasy author websites online, and instantly within 2 weeks, it's hit #1 for that keyword and stayed there for, I think, almost 2 years now, and no sign of it going away. So finding that content gap is an incredibly fast way to get exposure. So you pick a fight you can win, and also pick a subject you can own. Like I just said, we do fantasy author websites. It's easy for us to write about fantasy author websites. We can use our own subject matter there. We can refer people to websites we've done. It makes sense. Lauren Kim, she is a health coach. She obviously understands the subject. She's studied. She's also a physiotherapist. She's got a wealth of information to draw on. Of course, you can do extra research, but it's a lot easier to write a great article if you know what you're talking about, and people can smell it from a mile away if you don't. So those are the things. Keyword research, pick a fight you can win, and pick a subject that you can own. Next major area of this game is you need to write from a place of authority. So don't write about something that you have absolutely no clue about. I've kind of gone over this a bit already, but it's kind of obvious. People will just realize it right away that you're just clueless, and you shouldn't really have any place talking about this in the first place. Like if I were on this marketing channel to talk about women's fashion or shoes or something, it would seem very weird, and what kind of authority would I possibly have to talk about that on this platform anyway? I've never really done anything in that area. People would just not take it seriously and be like, it'll be random, right? So, which brings us to another area of this content marketing game is make sure it's very relevant to your niche. Don't create irrelevant content. Stay, on topic. If you generally talk about health coaching like Lauren Kim, then continue to talk about health coaching. There's a lot you can talk about. There's any sort of subject can be fleshed out. You can go into more specific detail about things that you've touched on before. This is at least my 3rd video on content marketing. I could make 100 more. Some channels only make videos about content marketing. You can even talk about the same thing again and take a different angle. There's no end to the amount of content you can produce, but make sure you stay in your niche. Doesn't mean you don't have to be original, but make sure you don't go completely random and talk about something that has no relevance to your niche. Then you can do a lot of things to speak from a place of authority. You can use statistics and link to the source of those statistics. That immediately gives you credibility. You're actually you're building an argument and you're saying something from a place of actually fact. You're not just randomly, pulling opinions out of the air. You can use trusted references and link to them, like use well-known sources of information, government websites, things like that, where there are, verified sources, big names that are known. These kind of things are great. And then link to the source so people can immediately verify, oh great. And Google will also see your article as more trustworthy because it links to relevant sources that actually make sense regarding that piece of information. And similarly, you can use quotes from well-known sources and again, link to them. Always link to something if you've got a great resource. You can use your own verifiable achievements and you can internally link to them in other parts of your website. That also lends a lot of authority to your voice and means your article will sit better with readers. And obviously mention your credentials. If you've written a book, if you've got a doctorate, if you have certain certifications or achievements or anything like that, let it be known. Great, so now we've realized the groundwork, picking the content gap, and coming from a place of authority that you actually, you're given enough of a platform in writing this that your audience will respect you as a source worthy of being read. How do we go from there? So now what we have to do is we have to craft epic content. So there are two basic kind of references I'll use here. So there is a kind of a legendary article in the content marketing world, which is simply called Write Epic Shit. And this was written by a guy called Corbett Barr, and it created quite a buzz in the content marketing and world. And you should definitely go check that out. And basically what he's saying is exactly this. You make the very best piece of content on the entire internet for that specific keyword and that specific topic. You don't compromise. You don't just churn stuff out. You put the time in, you dedicate whatever it takes to make the most epic piece of content you possibly can. There's no place for mediocre if you really want to stand out on the internet. And similarly, another famous content marketer who specializes in getting traffic from Google, his name is Brian Dean. His blog is called Backlinko. And he has this whole technique he calls the skyscraper technique. And I'll link to that as well. But basically the essence of the skyscraper technique is when you look at the horizon of a city, one building will stand out as the tallest building in that city. I mean, everybody knows the Empire State Building, right? But that's not even the tallest building in the world, but it was for many years. But nobody remembers what the second tallest building in the world was, right? I mean, now it's maybe it was the Empire State Building, but when the Empire State Building was the tallest building in the world, what was the next building? I have no idea. So the basic idea of the skyscraper technique is to create the best content for your niche that you possibly can and make it so much taller and so much bigger that when people look at the horizon line of the internet for your subject, your piece of content just stands out as that massive skyscraper, and then that just gets the most attention because that one stands out and it's notable compared to everything else, right? So I mean, a little bit more on this epic content thing. So make sure your article is the most thoroughly researched, or piece of video content like this if it is, make sure it's the most thoroughly researched piece of content for that keyword. You can use tools. There's a great tool that I found called Phrase. It's frase.io. I'll also link to that. This will help you quickly do research and help you be able to create a better, more thoroughly researched article than the other top 20 articles on the same thing in Google. So that's a little tip there. You can obviously do all your other research, use your own references as well. And make sure you really go and think, what are the questions around this thing? What questions will people ask? Generally, it's always a good idea, like with the health coaching in South Africa article that we got Lauren to write. Straight up define anything that might not be completely clear, like what is health coaching? If anybody had any clue, had any question what was health coaching to begin with, then let's quickly get that answered. Let's get the fundamentals out of the way. That'll also tell Google, wow, this person's really taking care to make sure this article really covers everything. So make sure you get every question answered. You can go into Quora, That's quora.com, I think. And you can also see what are people asking questions about in this niche and get some ideas or what questions you should answer there. And you can, this is not completely important, but it does help if the content is thin to write a longer article than your competitors. It's statistically shown that longer articles generally rank the top of Google. So I think it's around 2,000 words, 1,500 to 2,500 words, somewhere around there is generally the top articles on Google are that length. So that gives you an idea. You don't write an 800 or 600 word article. You rather go for a little bit longer length generally. And then make your content more easy to understand than your competitors. Use bullet points, use big headings that clearly define the structure of your article, make your article better structured than anybody else. Organize the content so people can easily just sort of snack on it, find things. You can put table of contents in, use examples and illustrations, really, you know, if you can get that also custom made, even better. Really go all out to make your article the best you possibly can. Okay, cool. I think we've got this kind of covered, right? You've structured this thing beautifully. You've wrote this beautiful, 2,000 word article. It's so much better than anything out there, especially anything that's on the top 10 of what you search in Google when you compare to your competitors on keyword research. So what do you do now? So at times, like with Health Coaching South Africa and fantasy author websites, like I mentioned earlier, you will have such an easy to snatch content gap that you'll pretty easily shoot to the top. Like Lauren Kim is now #1 for Health Coaching South Africa, #1 for Health Coach or Health Coaching Africa. And these were no doubt the reasons how the ways the BBC actually found it and contacted it for this. And same with my fantasy author website's article. There was nobody else really trying. So it's pretty easy to snatch #1 there. But in some cases, you're going to be competing for a very coveted space on the internet where there's a lot of search traffic and a lot of people are trying to own that space. In that case, the only way to get up there and actually stand any chance of competing with the other guys is to do what's called outreach. So outreach emails or outreach, generally, it's just reaching out to other people in the space, sharing your content with them and getting them to share your content with their audience. And obviously this is much easier to do if you've done the step before of creating amazing content, because nobody cares about mediocre content. Nobody's going to link back to mediocre content. Average just gets less than average response and reaction. People go, whatever. There are 10,000 articles just like yours. Why should I care? But if your article is so good, you can say literally, I've gone in depth on 50 other examples of this. It's illustrated. It's got a video that goes with it. It's this reason. And obviously now Lauren Kim can say, hey, this was featured on BBC Africa. You sell the value of your article, and you simply go on Google and you search your keyword. You find everybody else who comes up. You go into each one of their blogs. You find out as many people's actual emails as you can. It's actually more surprisingly easy than you think. You can go on LinkedIn, you can connect with them, you can tweet at them, the internet is so connected these days, it's fairly easy to make a connection with somebody, and bloggers kind of know this. So most people writing a blog, kind of very approachable, believe it or not. And you just email them. You write an interesting original email. Hey, I just saw your blog here. It's so interesting. I love what you're doing here. Make sure it's personal. Nobody likes spammy. That you've sent 1 million of them and they're just the 1,001st person. They're like, okay, whatever, delete, or they don't even see it, just goes to their spam box. So you send out these personal emails. Yes, it's work, but trust me, it's worth it. And then anybody who doesn't reply, you send out to again 3 days later. Anybody who doesn't reply to that, you send out again maybe 5 days later. And you can even do a fourth one a week after that. So the follow-up emails are very important because you'll dramatically increase your response rate if you do that. You can use tools like, there's a tool called Mailshake. I think there's another one called Postago. There's a whole lot of automation tools that help you craft your message and send automated responses and help you customize those responses to the particular audience so you can speed up this whole process. So that is how to really get people to now use their audiences to share your content as well. what that'll do is that'll make them link back to you. Those links will then send signals to Google to say, wow, this article really is worth taking notice of, and then that'll boost you up the rankings as well. And then hopefully over time, you too will be recognized by major news sources like the BBC. I myself have got some amazing exposure using this exact system that I've told you here, and I hope you can just go right ahead and use it as well. So rounding this all off, I'd like to know exactly what kind of epic content you are about to produce right now so that you can get some major exposure yourself. Make sure to comment below and let me know what that is.